The Sanctuary Protocol, the arrival meridian station, floated in the quiet darkness of space, a massive wheel of metal and light spinning slowly against the backdrop of distant stars. Captain Marcus Webb stood in the observation deck, watching the transport vessels approach through the transparent aluminum viewport. He had seen many ships dock at Meridian over his 15 years as station commander, but something about these vessels made his chest tighten with an emotion he couldn't quite name. The Zalathi were coming. 3,000 refugees fleeing from something the Galactic Council refused to discuss openly. Marcus had read the classified reports, the ones that came through encrypted channels from Earth Command. The Crexan Dominion was expanding again, absorbing smaller civilizations into their empire. The Zalathi were next on their list, and they had nowhere else to turn. Lieutenant Sarah Kim approached from behind, her footsteps echoing softly on the deck plating. She carried a datapad filled with logistics reports, housing assignments, and medical protocols. Her face showed the same mixture of determination and concern that Marcus felt in his own heart. "The first transport is requesting docking clearance," she said quietly. "They're asking if we're sure about this." Apparently 3 other stations refused them. Marcus turned to face her. "Grant clearance. And yes, we're sure. Earth didn't send us out here to turn away people in need." The first Zalathi transport docked at Bay 7, with a gentle thud that resonated through the station's superstructure. Marcus made his way down to the docking area, where a crowd of human station personnel had gathered. There were engineers, medical staff, teachers, and families who called Meridian home. They waited with the kind of nervous energy that always accompanied something new and uncertain. The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. What emerged made several humans gasp softly. The Zalathi were tall and thin, their bodies covered in fine silver fur that seemed to shimmer under the station's lighting. Their faces were elongated with large amber eyes that held depths of intelligence and sorrow. They moved gracefully, almost floating as they walked, their long fingers clutching small bags that contained everything they had managed to save. Ambassador Tyreth stepped through first. She was elderly by Zalathi standards, her silver fur streaked with white. She stopped when she saw Marcus, her amber eyes studying him carefully. Then slowly she placed her hand over her heart in what Marcus somehow understood was a gesture of gratitude and trust. "Commander Webb," she said in perfectly clear English, though her voice had a musical quality that reminded Marcus of wind chimes. "Your species has shown us kindness when all others turned away. We are in your debt." Marcus stepped forward and extended his hand in the human custom of greeting. Tyreth looked at it for a moment, confused, before carefully placing her hand in his. Her skin was warm and smooth, her grip gentle but firm. "You're not in our debt," Marcus said. "You're our guests. Welcome to Meridian Station. This is your home now for as long as you need it." Those simple words seemed to break something in Tyreth, her large eyes filled with tears that sparkled like crystals in the light. Behind her, other Zalathi began to emerge, families clutching children, elders supporting each other. They looked exhausted, frightened, and hopeful all at once. Building bridges. The weeks that followed transformed Meridian Station in ways Marcus hadn't anticipated. The Zalathi were given quarters in the station's residential ring, but the boundaries between human and Zalathi areas became meaningless almost immediately. Humans had a way of breaking down walls, especially when they sensed someone needed help. Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, the station's chief medical officer, started joint training sessions with Zalathi healers. She was amazed by their medical knowledge, particularly their understanding of genetic manipulation and cellular regeneration. The Zalathi healers were equally impressed by human surgical techniques and pharmacology. They began sharing knowledge freely, each species learning from the other. In the station's education center, human and Zalathi children attended classes together. The young ones adapted fastest, as children always did. Within days, human kids were learning Zalathi musical language, trying to mimic the complex harmonics. Zalathi children picked up English with startling speed, their voices taking on the rhythms and inflections of their human friends. Marcus watched a group of children playing in one of the recreation areas. A human boy named David Chen was teaching a Zalathi girl named Liara how to play zero-gravity soccer. They laughed together, communicating in a mixture of English, Zalathi, and gestures that transcended language. The sight made Marcus smile, but it also made him worried. The Galactic Council had sent multiple messages. They were warnings disguised as advice, Maintain professional distance, they said. This is a temporary situation. The Zalathi would need to be relocated once things stabilized. Getting emotionally involved was dangerous. It clouded judgment. It created complications that could have political ramifications. Marcus deleted most of the messages. He had never been good at following advice that contradicted his instincts, and every human instinct he had was screaming that these people needed protection. Chief Engineer Robert Hayes became close friends with a Zalathi engineer named Volmuth. They spent hours in the station's engineering bay, Hayes teaching Volmuth about human fusion reactor designs while Volmuth explained Zalathi gravity manipulation technology. They spoke different languages but understood each other perfectly in the universal language of engineering. In the station's market district, Zalathi artisans set up small shops. They created incredible works of art, sculptures that seemed to defy physics and instruments that produced sounds humans had never heard before. Human merchants welcomed them, helping them understand human trade customs and currency systems. Maria Santos, a restaurant owner who had lost her husband in a mining accident years ago, took a young Zalathi couple under her wing. She taught them how to cook human food, laughing at their reactions to spices and flavors they had never experienced. In return, they introduced her to Zalathi cuisine, foods that combined taste, texture, and color in ways that delighted all the senses. 4 months passed. The Zalathi were no longer refugees in anyone's mind. They were neighbors, colleagues, friends. They were family. Marcus saw it in every interaction, every shared meal, every mixed group working together on station maintenance or research projects. The ultimatum, the formal transmission arrived without warning. Marcus was in his office reviewing supply requisitions when his communication console chimed with an incoming message tagged as Priority Alpha. He opened it and felt his blood run cold. The Crexan Dominion had filed an official claim with the Galactic Council. The Zalathi were subjects of territories under Crexan jurisdiction, they argued. Their departure had been illegal. The Dominion demanded their immediate return to face judgment for abandoning their designated worlds. Marcus read the message 3 times, his hands clenching into fists.
He had known this was coming.
Deep down he had always known. But reading the cold, bureaucratic language made it real in a way that frightened him. The Galactic Council had scheduled a hearing. Human representatives were invited to attend and present their position. The tone of the invitation made it clear what the Council expected. They wanted humanity to comply quietly, to avoid creating an incident that might destabilize the delicate political balance of the galaxy. Marcus attended the Council hearing via holographic projection. His image appeared in the massive circular chamber that served as the Council's meeting place. Around him, representatives from 40 different species looked down from elevated platforms. Most looked bored, as if this was just another minor dispute to be resolved quickly. The Crexan ambassador spoke first. He was enormous, his body covered in thick armored plates that made him look like a walking fortress. His voice was deep and resonant, carrying the weight of authority and power. The Zalathi are subjects of the Dominion, he declared. They occupied worlds within our sphere of influence. Their unauthorized departure constitutes theft of Dominion property and resources. We demand their immediate return to face justice under Dominion law. Several council members nodded. Marcus could see the political calculations happening in their minds. The Crexan Dominion was powerful, controlling dozens of star systems and commanding a massive military fleet. Humanity was young, barely a century into space exploration. The choice seemed obvious to most of them. The council chairman, a crystalline being whose species had been exploring space for millennia, spoke with carefully neutral tones. The council recognizes the complexity of this situation. However, established territorial claims must be respected. Commander Webb, does humanity have a response? Marcus took a deep breath. He thought about David Chen and Liara playing soccer. He thought about Dr. Morgan and the Zalathi healers working together to save lives. He thought about Maria Santos teaching a Zalathi couple how to make empanadas. He thought about the bonds that had formed, the friendships, the trust. The Zalathi are under human protection, Marcus said clearly. They came to us as refugees fleeing persecution. We granted them sanctuary. They are not property to be returned. They are people. They are our people now. The Crexan ambassador's armored plates clicked together in what Marcus recognized as their expression of anger. And what will you do, human, when we come to collect them? Your station is alone. Your fleet is small. Your species is young and weak. Marcus looked directly at the Crexan ambassador. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. Touch them, he said quietly, and you will face all of humanity. Not just Meridian Station. Not just our local defense fleet, all of us. Every human ship, every human world, every human who hears what you've done. We don't abandon our people. We don't hand over refugees to their persecutors, and we keep our promises. The chamber fell silent, then slowly laughter began. It started with the Crexan delegation, then spread to others. Humanity's threats seemed absurd to species that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. Earth's military was small compared to the great powers. Their technology was generations behind the most advanced civilizations, but Marcus didn't laugh. He simply stood there, his holographic image steady and unwavering, looking at each council member in turn. "This is your only warning," he said. "We won't give another one." The council chairman tried to restore order. "Commander Webb, perhaps if we discuss this reasonably." "We gave our warning," Marcus interrupted. "That's all we owe anyone. What happens next is the Dominion's choice." He terminated the connection, his image disappearing from the council chamber. Behind him, Sarah Kim had been watching the entire exchange. Her face was pale. "They're coming, aren't they?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said. "They're coming." The raid the Crexan task force arrived 6 days later. 8 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Meridian's system. They were massive vessels, each one bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Their formation was precise, designed to intimidate and overwhelm. The communication came immediately. "Meridian Station, this is Fleet Commander Dravik of the Crexan Dominion. You are harboring Dominion subjects illegally. Surrender all Zalathi refugees within 2 hours or face military action. This is your only warning." Marcus stood in Meridian's command center, looking at the tactical display. His defense consisted of 2 patrol ships and the station's own weapon systems. Against 8 Crexan warships, they were hopelessly outmatched. Around him, his crew worked quietly, efficiently. No one looked afraid, though they all understood the situation. "Send a response," Marcus said. "Tell them the Zalathi are under human protection and we will not surrender them. Tell them to leave this system immediately." Lieutenant Kim transmitted the message. The response came quickly. "You have made your choice. We will take what is ours." The 2 hours passed in tense silence. Marcus spent the time moving through the station, checking on the Zalathi, making sure they understood what was happening. Tyrith met him in one of the residential corridors. "You should surrender us," she said quietly. "We are not worth a war." Marcus shook his head. "You're worth everything. We don't abandon people who trust us. That's not who we are. But you will die for us, if necessary." Marcus smiled gently. "But I'm hoping it won't come to that. We sent a message of our own. Help is coming." The Crexan didn't wait. Exactly 2 hours after their warning, assault shuttles launched from their warships. Dozens of them descended toward Meridian Station in tight formation. Marcus ordered his patrol ships to intercept, but they were driven back within minutes. The Crexan shuttles docked with the station's outer hull, and cutting torches began burning through. Marcus activated the station-wide intercom. "All personnel, we are being boarded. Protect the Zalathi. Do not let them be taken." Throughout Meridian, humans responded. They weren't soldiers, most of them. They were engineers and scientists, teachers and merchants, families who had made the station their home. But they were human, and their friends needed them. The Crexan breached through Docking Bay 12. Armored soldiers poured through the opening, their weapons ready. They expected resistance, but what they found shocked them. A wall of humans stood between them and the residential areas. They held whatever they could find as weapons: tools, pipes, maintenance equipment. Some had nothing but their bare hands. "Stand aside," the Crexan commander ordered. "This doesn't concern you." "Like hell it doesn't," shouted Robert Hayes. He stood at the front of the group, holding a plasma cutter. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "These are our people. You're not taking them." The Crexan soldiers moved forward, using stun weapons to drop the humans one by one. They fell unconscious but alive. The Crexan weren't here to kill unless necessary. This was a collection operation, not a massacre, but the humans kept coming. For every person who fell, 2 more took their place. They formed human chains, linking arms to block corridors. They barricaded doors with their own bodies. They fought with everything they had. In the chaos, a Krexan squad broke through to the residential ring. They burst into apartments, dragging Zalathi families from their homes. The Zalathi screamed, terrified, reaching out for their human neighbors. Human children ran after them, crying, trying to pull their friends back. That's when everything changed. A Krexan soldier, frustrated by a human woman who refused to release a Zalathi child, switched his weapon from stun to lethal mode. The energy bolt caught her in the chest. She fell instantly, her body hitting the deck plating. Her name was Catherine Reynolds. She had been a botanist studying methods to grow food in zero gravity.
She had a husband and a daughter.
She died protecting a Zalathi child she had known for 4 months. 2 more humans died in the next 10 minutes. Then a Krexan soldier shot David Chen. The boy had thrown himself in front of Liara, wrapping his arms around her, trying to shield her with his small body. The energy bolt meant for the Zalathi girl struck David instead. He died instantly, his last act one of friendship and protection. The Krexan captured 73 Zalathi and retreated to their shuttles. They left behind 3 dead humans and dozens of wounded. They left grief and rage and something far more dangerous. They left humanity with proof that their warning had been ignored. The security footage spread through human space faster than light itself. Within hours, every human settlement had seen it. They watched Catherine Reynolds die. They watched David Chen's final sacrifice. They watched Zalathi families torn from their homes, screaming for help. Earth's response came swiftly. The Secretary of Unified Humanity appeared on every screen, every channel, every communication frequency. The Krexan Dominion has committed an act of war against humanity, she declared, her voice cold with controlled fury. We gave them one warning. We told them clearly, touch the Zalathi and face all of humanity. They chose to ignore that warning. They killed our people. They took those under our protection. As of this moment, Earth declares a state of active defense against the Krexan Dominion. There will be no negotiation. There will be no compromise. The Zalathi will be returned, and the Krexan will learn what it means to ignore humanity's warning. The Galactic Council sent urgent messages begging for restraint. This could be resolved diplomatically, they insisted. War was unnecessary and would destabilize the entire sector. Humanity's response was simple. We gave one warning. They had their chance. Across human space, fleets mobilized. Military vessels powered up their drives and plotted jump coordinates. Civilian ships volunteered to carry supplies and personnel. Corporations offered their resources. Every human colony, every station, every settlement contributed what they could. The galaxy watched in shock as humanity transformed from peaceful newcomers into something ancient and terrible. They saw a species that would go to war not for territory or resources, but for friendship, for bonds freely given and fiercely protected. On Meridian Station, Marcus Webb stood in the medical bay where the 3 bodies lay covered with white sheets. Tyreth stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. Why? She whispered. Why would they die for us? Marcus looked at her, his eyes red from crying but steady. Because you're ours now. Because we made a promise. Because that's what humans do. We protect our people. All of our people. He turned to look out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Krexan fleet still held 73 Zalathi captives. But humanity was coming. And when they arrived, the Krexan would understand exactly what their ignored warning had cost them. The message went out on all frequencies. Broadcast to the Krexan fleet, to the Galactic Council, to every listening species in the sector. You were warned. You chose to ignore it. Now face the consequences. This is humanity. The price of ignoring humanity. The gathering Stormfleet Commander Dravik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign Talon, watching the tactical displays with growing unease. His mission had been successful. 73 Zalathi refugees were secured in his holding cells. His ships had taken minimal damage during the extraction from Meridian Station. By all military measures, the operation was a victory, yet something felt wrong. His communications officer had reported unusual activity across human space. Ships were moving, converging from multiple directions. The patterns didn't make sense. Humanity's known fleet strength couldn't possibly threaten his task force. Status report, Dravik ordered, his armored plates shifting as he moved. Sir, we're detecting increased communication traffic throughout human territory, his sensor operator responded. Multiple vessels are breaking from their patrol routes and heading toward our position. Dravik's mandibles clicked in what passed for Krexan laughter. How many? 3 ships, 4? Our intelligence indicated humanity has perhaps 20 military vessels in this entire sector. Sir, the numbers don't match our intelligence. We're tracking. More than that. Significantly more. Before Dravik could respond, his communications console lit up with an incoming transmission. The face that appeared on screen belonged to a human woman who looked to be in her 60s. She had silver hair, calm eyes, and an expression that reminded Dravik of ancient stone, weathered but unbreakable. Fleet Commander Dravik, I am Admiral Helena Cross of the United Earth Defense Force. You are currently holding 73 Zalathi refugees who are under human protection. You have killed 3 human civilians. You were given fair warning. I am offering you one chance to avoid what comes next. Return the Zalathi immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be taken into custody for trial. You have 2 hours to comply. Dravik's entire body shook with laughter. Admiral, your nearest military installation is 4 days away at maximum speed. My fleet outnumbers and outguns anything humanity can field in this sector. I suggest you reconsider your position. Admiral Cross smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Dravik's laughter die. Commander, we're already here. We've been here the whole time. You just couldn't see us. The communication ended. Dravik turned to his sensor operator. What is she talking about? Scan the area. Full spectrum analysis. What his sensors revealed made Dravik's blood run cold. Ships began appearing on his tactical display. Not 3 or 4 vessels. Hundreds of them. They dropped their stealth fields and active camouflage, revealing positions that surrounded his fleet completely. Warships, carriers, destroyers, and vessel designs that Krexan intelligence had never documented. Where did they come from? Dravik's second officer whispered. The answer was simple and terrifying. They had always been there. Hidden in asteroid fields, lurking in planetary shadows disguised as civilian transports and mining vessels. Humanity had been preparing for years, building in secret, waiting for the day when someone would test their resolve. Sir, I'm counting over 300 vessels, the sensor operator reported, his voice shaking. Their formation suggests they've been coordinating for hours. They knew exactly where we would be. Dravik stared at the display. His 8 warships were powerful, each one capable of destroying a city, but they were surrounded by a fleet that outnumbered them 37-1. His strategic training told him this was impossible. His sensors told him it was real. First contact. Admiral Cross's voice filled every speaker on every Krexan ship. Your 2 hours begin now. Return the Zalathi or we open fire. There will be no further warnings. No negotiations. You ignored our first warning. You killed our people. Now you face the consequences. Dravik's pride warred with his tactical assessment. The Krexan Dominion did not surrender. They did not bow to threats from younger species. But he was also a realist. His fleet was trapped, surrounded, and outnumbered. Any engagement would be suicide. He made his decision. All ships, battle stations, prepare to engage. We will show these humans what Krexan warriors are made of. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, the tactical situation. I am aware of the situation, Dravik snapped. The Dominion does not yield. Target their largest vessels. Fire on my command. The 2 hours crawled by in tense silence. Dravik used the time to position his ships for maximum defensive coverage, knowing it wouldn't be enough. His crew worked efficiently, but he could sense their fear. They had all seen the sensor readings. They knew what was coming. When the deadline passed, Admiral Cross didn't bother with another warning. She simply gave the order. All ships weapons free. Disable their drives and weapon systems. Minimize casualties where possible. Our objective is to recover the Zalathi, not to slaughter. The human fleet opened fire with precision that spoke of extensive training and preparation. Their weapons were advanced beyond what Galactic Council intelligence had reported. Railguns fired projectiles at relativistic speeds, punching through Krexan shields like they were tissue paper. Laser arrays carved through armor plating with surgical accuracy. Missiles that adapted to countermeasures in real time, learning and evolving with each defensive maneuver they encountered. But it was the tactics that truly overwhelmed Dravik. The humans fought unlike any military force he had ever encountered. They used swarm tactics, coordinating hundreds of ships as if they were a single organism. When one vessel was targeted, 3 others moved to cover it. When the Krexan tried to focus fire on weak points, human ships repositioned before the shots could land. They took risks that no sane military commander would approve. Human vessels dove between Krexan warships, firing at point-blank range where their own ships risked damage from the backwash. They deployed drone swarms that overwhelmed Crexan point defense systems through sheer numbers. Some drones were simply decoys, drawing fire while others struck vulnerable systems. Within 20 minutes, 2 Crexan warships were disabled, their engines and weapon systems destroyed. The crews were alive but helpless, drifting in space. 3 more vessels were heavily damaged, struggling to maintain power to critical systems. Dravik's flagship shuddered as human fire tore through its shields. Warning klaxons blared across the bridge. "Shields at 30%, his tactical officer reported. "We've lost primary weapons arrays. Secondary systems are failing. Return fire." Dravik roared. "Show them we are not prey." The Crexan fleet fought back with desperate ferocity. Their weapons were powerful, each shot capable of vaporizing a small ship. But the humans anticipated every move. When Crexan vessels tried to concentrate fire, the human ships scattered and regrouped in seconds. When the Crexan attempted to target Meridian Station as leverage, human vessels threw themselves into the line of fire without hesitation, their point defense systems creating walls of destruction that intercepted every shot. The boarding, while the battle raged, human special forces units prepared for their primary mission. Transport pods launched from carrier vessels, small armored capsules designed for one purpose: boarding enemy ships under fire. Lieutenant Commander James Morrison led Strike Force Alpha toward the Sovereign Talon. His team consisted of 24 Marines in powered combat armor that made them look like mechanical titans. Each suit was equipped with cutting tools, breaching charges, and weapons designed for close-quarters combat in zero gravity. "Remember the objective," Morrison said over the team channel. "We're here for the Zalathi. Everything else is secondary. I don't care how many Crexan we have to go through. We're bringing our people home." The boarding pod struck the Crexan flagship's hull with tremendous force, its magnetic clamps locking on tight. Plasma cutters ignited, burning through armor plating that was supposed to withstand ship-to-ship weapons. Within 60 seconds, they had created an entry point. Morrison was first through, his combat suit's sensors painting a picture of the corridor beyond. Crexan security forces waited behind improvised barricades, their weapons charged and ready. They opened fire immediately, energy bolts splashing against marine armor. The humans advanced through the fire like it was rain. Their suits' shields absorbed the impacts, glowing brightly but holding. Morrison's squad returned fire with kinetic weapons, high-velocity rounds that punched through Crexan armor and the bulkheads beyond. "Contact. Heavy resistance advancing to objective," Morrison reported calmly, as if he was discussing the weather rather than fighting through a warship. The Crexan defenders were experienced soldiers, veterans of dozens of campaigns. But they had never faced humans in close combat. The Marines moved with frightening speed, their powered armor giving them strength and agility that seemed impossible for creatures their size. They used grenades that released concussive force carefully calculated to disable, without destroying the ship's integrity. They coordinated their movements with precision, each Marine knowing exactly where the others would be. Strike Force Alpha pushed deeper into the ship, leaving disabled Crexan soldiers in their wake. Morrison's suit sensors detected the holding cells 3 decks below. "We're close. Prepare for heavy contact at the detention level." They breached through a bulkhead directly into the detention area's guard station. Crexan guards turned in surprise, reaching for weapons. Morrison's team moved faster, disabling them with stun rounds before they could fire. The Marines secured the area in under 30 seconds. Morrison approached the holding cells and deactivated the force fields. Inside, he found the 73 Zalathi huddled together in 3 large cells. They were terrified, some injured from rough handling during their capture. A young Zalathi girl pressed herself against the back wall, trembling. Morrison removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face and kind eyes. He knelt down slowly, making himself less imposing. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm human. We're here to take you home." The little girl stared at him, her amber eyes wide with disbelief. "Human?" she whispered in broken English. "That's right. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore. We promise." Tirith pushed through the crowd of Zalathi, her face streaked with tears. "You came. You actually came for us." "Of course we came," Morrison said, standing. "You're ours. We don't leave our people behind. Ever." Across the Crexan fleet, similar scenes played out. Human boarding teams struck every vessel simultaneously. Their primary targets the detention areas where Zalathi were held. Within 90 minutes, all 73 refugees were recovered. Not one was left behind. The efficiency of the operation spoke to extensive planning and absolute determination. The surrender on. The bridge of the Sovereign Talon, Fleet Commander Dravik watched his fleet fall apart around him. 5 of his 8 warships were disabled or destroyed. His own vessel was crippled, listing in space with failing power systems. Human Marines had breached his ship and recovered the Zalathi prisoners despite his best efforts to stop them. His communications officer looked at him with defeat in his eyes. "Sir, the humans are hailing us." Admiral Cross's face appeared on the view screen. Behind her, Dravik could see a command center operating with calm efficiency. She looked at him without anger or triumph, just a kind of sad certainty. "Commander Dravik, your fleet is defeated. The Zalathi have been recovered. 537 of your crew are dead. Twice that number are wounded. You have a choice now. Surrender and face trial for your crimes, or continue fighting and ensure complete destruction. I'm told Crexan culture values honor above all else. There's no honor in dying for a lost cause. There's no honor in sacrificing your remaining crew for pride." Dravik looked around his bridge. His crew watched him, waiting for his decision. They were soldiers ready to die if he ordered it, but they were also young, with families waiting for them in distant star systems. He thought about the intelligence reports he had read about humanity. The reports that said they were weak, technologically inferior, politically naive. Those reports had been catastrophically wrong. The humans had prepared for this moment. They had built in secret, trained in darkness, and waited with patient determination for someone to test them. The Crexan had volunteered to be that test, and they had failed spectacularly. "I surrender," Dravik said quietly. The words tasted like ash, but they were necessary. "I will face your justice." Aftermath, the battle ended as suddenly as it began. Human ships moved through the debris field, rescuing Crexan survivors and providing medical aid to wounded from both sides. They treated their former enemies with the same care they would show their own people, a gesture that confused many Crexan soldiers. The Zalathi were transported back to Meridian Station aboard human medical vessels. The reunion was emotional. Families that had been torn apart were brought together again. Human and Zalathi embraced, crying together, celebrating survival and friendship. Marcus Webb stood in the docking bay as Tirith returned. She walked down the ramp slowly, looking around as if unable to believe she was really back. When she saw Marcus, she ran to him and collapsed in his arms, sobbing. "You kept your promise," she said through her tears. "You came for us." "I told you," Marcus said gently, his own eyes wet. "You're our people now. We don't abandon our people." Throughout the station, similar scenes played out. David Chen's parents welcomed Lyara back, holding the little Zalathi girl who their son had died protecting. She wore a small memorial bracelet with David's name engraved on it. Robert Hayes reunited with Volmeth, the 2 engineers embracing like the brothers they had become. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species watched recordings of the battle, with expressions ranging from shock to respect to fear. Humanity had revealed capabilities that dramatically changed the political landscape of the galaxy. The council chairman addressed Admiral Cross, who had been invited to present humanity's perspective. "Admiral, the council must express concern about the military buildup your species has conducted in secret. Such actions could be interpreted as aggressive." Admiral Cross stood before the council with calm dignity. "We built our fleet for one purpose, to protect those who needed protection. We never intended to use it for conquest or expansion, but we learned long ago that the galaxy respects strength more than compassion, so we prepared. We hoped we would never need to use our fleet, but when the Crexan ignored our warning and killed our people, we had no choice." "You started a war over refugees," another council member said accusingly. "No," Admiral Cross corrected firmly. "We started a war over friendship, over bonds freely given and protected fiercely. The Zalathi asked us for sanctuary and we granted it. When someone tried to take them by force, we defended them. That's not aggression, that's honor." The Crexan ambassador, a different individual than the one who had spoken so arrogantly weeks before, stood slowly. His species had been humbled, their military reputation shattered. "The Dominion acknowledges its error in judgment. We underestimated humanity. We will not make that mistake again." "Good," Admiral Cross said. Because this is what happens to everyone who threatens those under human protection. We gave one warning. We won't give more. Touch them and you face all of us. That's not a threat. It's a promise. The council session ended with a new understanding spreading through the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the young, naive newcomer. They were a force to be respected, a species that would go to war for friendship and fight with terrifying efficiency when their people were threatened. A new beginning. 3 months after the battle, Meridian Station had returned to something resembling normal life. The Zalathi settlement had expanded, integrated fully into the station's community. There were no boundaries anymore, no divisions between human and Zalathi areas. They were simply one community, diverse but unified. Marcus Webb walked through the market district, watching human and Zalathi merchants trading side by side. Children of both species played together in the recreation areas, their laughter echoing through the corridors. In the distance, he could hear music, a blend of human and Zalathi instruments creating something beautiful and new. He stopped at a memorial wall where 3 names were engraved in stone. Catherine Reynolds, David Chen, Michael Torres, the humans who had died protecting their Zalathi friends. Fresh flowers had been placed beneath each name, left by Zalathi families who wanted to ensure these heroes were never forgotten. Tirith joined him at the memorial, placing her hand on David Chen's name. "He was so young," she said softly. "Too young to die." "Yes," Marcus agreed, "but he died doing something important. He died protecting someone he cared about. That matters." "Will there be more wars?" Tirith asked. "More species who test humanity's warning?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "Maybe. Probably. But each time someone tests us, each time we respond, the galaxy learns. Eventually, they'll understand. When you hurt someone under human protection, you face all of us. Not because we want to fight, but because we made a promise and humans keep their promises." Tirith looked up at him with her large amber eyes. "Your species is strange. You adopt strangers as family. You fight wars for friendship. You risk everything for people you barely know." Marcus smiled. "That's not strange to us. That's just being human. We form bonds easily and protect them fiercely. It's our greatest strength and our greatest vulnerability, but we wouldn't change it if we could. It's who we are." Throughout the galaxy, the story of Meridian Station spread. It became a legend, a warning, and an inspiration all at once. Species that needed sanctuary began seeking out human space, knowing they would find protection there. Aggressive empires learned to think twice before threatening anyone under human care. The Galactic Council established new protocols for refugee situations, largely influenced by humanity's example. The rules of galactic politics had changed because one species had been willing to fight for friendship. On Meridian Station, as the twin suns of the system set beyond the viewports, casting long shadows through the corridors, humans and Zalathi gathered for an evening meal together. They shared food, stories, and laughter. They had become something new, not human, not Zalathi, but a community built on trust and protected by courage. And somewhere in the darkness of space, human ships continued their patrols, vigilant and ready. They carried one simple message for the galaxy, one promise that would never be broken: touch them and face all of humanity. We gave you one warning. We won't give another.